I think it is in the nature of people in the 21st century to assume that reality is not only something that includes them, but that exists for their benefit. Entire religious structures operate around the notional significance that humans are important and that the whole of the universe is fine-tuned for our existence. This is a stupid lie. Most of Earth's water isn't drinkable. Most of Earth's surface can't sustain us. Most of Earth's life does not care about us. We are fragile, delicate little meat puppets, clever apes staring at our mirrors and imagining that we see a window. There are places in the world that are all too willing to remind us of their complete and utter antipathy towards us. I live in Australia, and that is a country that will teach you very easily that you need to respect it or it will kill you. This isn't "it's a deadly hellscape of spiders." No. It's that every house has awnings. It's that we build public shades everywhere. It's that you can get sunscreen at the post office. It's that the most common form of cancer you can get here is skin cancer, and people can die of sun poisoning. We live in places that we shape so that we can live there. And it's very obvious in some places that that shape is incredibly confined. I want to talk to you about this game, a ghost story, a horror story, about the choices we make to live in the places we do, and the kinds of stories we shape around ourselves to justify that existence. I want to talk to you about Enclosure. But it looks like this. Enclosure is a 2004 indie narrative adventure game made by the stunningly underdocumented Fimo Duo Entertainment from the Netherlands. It's an AGI game, the same engine Sierra used for their first wave of narrative adventure games, games like Space Quest 1 and 2, King's Quest 1, 2 and 3, and the first Leisure Suit Larry game. If you're familiar with the generation of games, AGI is the one with the weird wide pixels, and the text parser that doesn't pause while you're typing. If you're not familiar with it, it's an engine that's, for the time, revolutionary in how it let you control a character in a space with a text parser for input. This engine is, no jokes, part of why video games as you're familiar with them exist at all. The last AGI game, released by Sierra proper, was in 1989, which means this game came out 15 years after the AGI was a dead engine. 36 years ago. Time keeps happening. This game is 21 years old, and when it was made, the engine it's using was already 15. Anyway, Enclosure is a corker. In this game, you're playing Mike, a con artist who uses fake seances, but I repeat myself, to bilk people out of their cash as part of a two-person con with his girlfriend Sarah. With a reputation as someone who can communicate with the dead, Mike gets approached with an offer of $10,000 to come deal with a spiritual thing up in the remote, icy parts of Greenland, and as a good con artist, he goes along when the opportunity drops a slab of cash in front of him. He's very confident he knows how fake all the spiritual stuff is. All he's figuring he'll have to do is turn up, dupe a few people into believing some shaky chains, and then get back home to the pub with 10 grand, right? Then they get stuck there. Then things get spooky. And then things get murdery. And then things get weird. When it comes to games like King's Quest and Space Quest and other AGI fare, because those games were made by people who were inventing their technology themselves at the time, there's a certain meandering cluelessness to what they do. There's a standard game language we all know now that was not known at the time, back in 1989. Indeed, if you try and document the actual events in sequence in those games to create a coherent plot, in some cases they just fundamentally fail. They're long on busy work, and to actually play through the game involves the character doing things that they can't understand the significance of at all, hanging onto items that aren't meaningfully useful for far too long, because you will need them eventually. And the character just had to know to hold their extra underpants and never use them for anything else. That's not even taking into account the game design failures. Most AGI games are designed so that the game can be rendered unwinnable and you won't ever know about it. It's not like a game over screen, it's a limbo state where the game doesn't tell you to stop, but it never lets you go. There's pixel hunts, there's ambiguous art, there's confusing idioms, God help you for parser errors where bag is a verb and not a noun, or where athletic supporter isn't a familiar term, so you don't know what else to call it. Oh, hey, or real-world timed puzzles where the clock on your computer determines how many seconds you have before a character dies off-screen, and you won't ever know why. AGI was a time of primitive games, and once Sierra moved on to SCI, the next interpreter, evolution on AGI seems to have stopped. At least in Sierra. Partly because shortly after that, Sierra stopped. I mean, being a thing. At all. The Cuck Group was involved. The task of developing more AGI games fell to the fans, who have spent plenty of time evolving the form and adding new ideas and just making better games. As a pure game, Enclosure is the best AGI game I've ever played in terms of quality. Puzzles have good conveyance with a coherent narrative. It uses the adventure game structure to create tension and present the player with discovery, rather than sitting around like a passive-aggressive aunt waiting for you to catch up to what obscure interaction it's going to make you work out on your own. A mystery needs something to maintain tension, and there are murders happening and also a ghost are good ways to increase that. It's an AGI game that feels like it was made by people who've endured bad AGI games, and have thought a lot about avoiding its worst pitfalls. One of the ways it gets around the potential challenges of AGI games' flaws, though, and the ways it maintains its tension as a suspense movie with a supernatural feeling theme, is by being short. Enclosure is an adventure game that compares to a movie in a lot of ways. Cinematography, tension, planting, payoff, but also in its duration. You could probably rip through Enclosure your first time in about 2 hours. Maybe. And not miss much. Still, it's not just a game about ghosts, but a game about cons. The game is filled with questions of how did that work, and what did that person do to fool us? And there's a lot of use made of the engine and its infamously hostile interface. Not that Enclosure is a very hostile game. It's only got 12 possible deaths, and the game hardly presents you with a checklist. Compare that to how quickly you can cack off in King's Quest's first screen, and it's indescribably gentle. There's also interface elements like a map and a character directory. Anytime you can just ask the game who's in the same room as you and it will tell you. The game rewards you for talking to people multiple times, which means that not only are you having to sit through long blocks of text where your character listens to someone, but you get to cut the conversation short when you think you have all the information you need. You can keep going back through the trees and ignoring what you see, just, F3, enter, F3, enter, F3, enter. But as it is, it's paced out, so reading those conversations is meaningfully interesting. There's this philosopher, Ian Bogost. Check the comments now to see if Doc is saying, man, screw Ian Bogost, because if so, valid. But Ian Bogost wrote this book called Alien Phenomenology, What It's Like to Be a Thing, in which he talks about the book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Repair. These books, in these chapters, align to describe the idea of philosophy of making, and how, right now, the way we talk about philosophy is to put primacy on making exactly one kind of thing, which is written text on pages in universities about philosophy. Bogost suggests that we should be open to other visions of how people express and demonstrate a philosophy, with bakers and cabinet makers each forwarding their own ideas in what they make. Anna Maria Caruzzi in 2009 tabled the idea of philosophy engines, where ideology doesn't float free and unmoored from the technologies used to create it. Everything we make is full of ideology. Remember what I said about houses with awnings and public shade? I think it's reasonable to see the life of Sierra's AGI games as being a byproduct of the philosophy the company had. the machine that was being used to make the games. The actual game engine was used to make making games easier, which was being done, sure, to express new ideas, but as the AGI games of the time and their SCI follow-ups suggest, the business of making games for Sierra was focused on the business of making games for Sierra, and margins, and not enough on letting people tell stories that interested them. There are some people making games with a lot of what I would call divorced energy at this point, when maybe the game should have taken a backseat to this person just getting right with their life. In a lot of ways, for lots of technology, part of the philosophy that lets them exist is capitalism itself. When those things are new, they are a means of production, usually owned and exclusively by people who are pointedly not you. When they open up, even now, they're only being opened up so the free effort of people like you can be further enclosed. Like this YouTube video, and podcasts, and Steam reviews. They're all labor, and they're all being pushed towards a specific end, which is to continue to have more of it, ideally, for free. When those things are removed from that need, you can have projects that take longer, made later, by people who know more, and for fun. You get playful expansions. You get choices like a dialogue-heavy horror mystery game about colonial violence and con artists. I think you should try Enclosure. It's free. The version you're seeing now is a voxel 3D version, available on Steam. Just click and go. And yes, I know concluding with an advertisement for Steam is ironic, and it is not lost on me.